Good morning and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, you can join me right here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. on this station to bring you, the landowner, the valuable information that you need regarding natural gas development here in Pennsylvania. At the Clark Law Firm, I focus on landowner and oil and gas right owner representation. I have not, do not, and will not represent oil and gas or pipeline companies. I represent Pennsylvania landowners for such items as gas lease negotiations, gas lease reviews, consultations, pipelines, pipeline agreements, surface agreements, estate planning, unitization and royalty issues, any and all contracts or issues related to natural gas development. Also, if you are considering, and here's going to be a quick little commercial part, but boy, I keep seeing it. If you are considering selling your natural gas rights, please, I hope you didn't sign anything yet. Put the pen down, and I'm sorry, but call somebody, but you can call me, 570-307-0702. If nothing else, have an initial review and evaluation consultation, generally talking about an hour, at most 2 of time, and I tell you, it's an extremely important call to make. You can, but boy, are you making an enormous mistake if you enter into an agreement to sell your oil and gas rights without consulting with a knowledgeable attorney. And I'll tell you this, without changing the terms of the sales agreement that these companies present to you, without carefully adjusting the deed language, without negotiating the price, without negotiating the time frames, if you are just simply entering into these agreements being provided by companies who typically are sending you information in the mail. Think about this. You're going to consider to sell your oil and gas rights to some company that sent you a letter or postcard in the mail. These rights may be the most valuable asset in many, many cases. They are the most valuable asset that you or your family possesses. And you're going to enter into an agreement to sell this extremely valuable asset to a third party that you've never heard of based on something that they sent you in the mail or even showed up at your house, either way. But usually they're throwing out letters in the mail. I liken it to fishing. You're just throwing out lines all over whatever that township or county is, and you hope you catch a nibble. And then you catch a nibble, and then you zero in, and you move in, and you try to hook that fish and get that fish. By the way, unfortunately, landowner, that's you, that's us, the fishes. They're trying to, they're throwing out all of these lines, and they're hoping they get a bite. So it's all about numbers. But the problem is, again, think about this. I mean, I know my landowner clients. I know my father and his friends. I know my grandparents and their friends in the rural communities. I can't imagine. It just shocks me that people are still doing this. And they're signing really bad sales agreements for much lower money than what they should be signing for, if they should even be signing, which, again, it comes down to the individual situation and a detailed individual evaluation to discuss the pros, the cons, the negatives, the positives. Why are you going to do this? And again, and as always, you should see me, I'm holding my head here. Again, and as always, are you going to rely on the guy who's at your door or who's calling you, who's in your house to tell you why you're making a good decision to sell your rights to him or his company, or really as a broker? Ask the guys this question. Hey, sir, are you a broker? Are you trying to get me to sign this document, this sales agreement to sell my rights, which you are then going to shop to various companies, hedge funds, investment groups, and you're going to try to get the best possible price, and you're going to make middleman profit, potentially significant profit, based on this transaction. So, hypothetical. The guy comes out to your house. We're going to just call him a guy. Says, hey, we want to buy your oil and gas rights. Gives you all the different reasons why they're the best and they don't flip and this and this and that, and tells you all the different reasons why they're the best company, better than all the others, and there's other bad actors out there. Well, interesting. Isn't that what they all say? Does the bad actor come out and say, hey, well, we're kind of the most shady company out there. Yeah, sometimes we go through, sometimes we don't. We get a lot of complaints. Are they coming out to say that to you? Well, of course not. They're all saying, yeah, there's some bad characters out there, but that's not us, and we pay, and we don't flip, and we're looking to become partners with you. They're not looking to become partners with you. They're looking to buy your oil and gas rights. And if they buy half of your rights and say, oh, we were going to be your partner, they buy 10%, 20, 80, 90, whatever that number is, again, that's not a partnership. They own a 100% interest in whatever they buy from you. So if you had 100 acres of rights and they buy 50 acres worth, well, they own that entire 50 acres worth of rights. Their motivation is only one thing: money. Nothing wrong with that in this scenario, but their motivation is only money. So as far as partnerships with you, if you own the surface and say you've maintained 50 of your 100 acres of rights, your interests are different than the guy or the company that bought 50% of the gas rights. The gas rights people only care about money, royalties. You certainly care about royalties, but you also care about what occurs on your property. What type of activity, what type of development, how is it reclaimed? Your considerations, although money is certainly one of them, goes much more broad or more broadly than that. Your concerns are much bigger. You have many other areas that you're looking at versus a company who only owns gas rights, who bought these rights solely as an investment for money. They don't care what happens on the surface of your property. They have no care at all of that. And in fact, they'd even like to see development because that may mean more likely they get money. So they don't care about that. You got to understand, I'm telling you, there's no partnership. There's no partnership here. There is no partnership. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, I'm here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. on this station to bring you, the landowner, the information that you need. Okay, I'm going to just keep going a little bit further here on these gas right sales. And again, please, and once again, I'm sitting here holding my head. If you are considering selling your oil and gas rights, your next call should be to my office, 570-307-0702. I can tell you about many times where I've represented landowners who we did evaluations and they say, oh, thank heavens, I'm really glad that we talked because this isn't something that I want to do. Or they said, hey, this is a lot of great information. I'm so glad we talked. I think I'm going to go ahead and move forward, but now that I know all the loopholes and pitfalls in this type of transaction, I'm better equipped. And in most cases, they will say, we'd like you to represent us to negotiate the terms of the sales agreement, negotiate the financial terms. A lot of times, there is more money available than what is being offered. So if you're going to go through with this transaction, you really need to negotiate it. You need to negotiate the money, and that's always the easiest thing. They say that all the time. Money is simple. Money is real easy to negotiate. Now, to understand your leverage in negotiating money, that's much more complicated. That's much more complex. So we need to identify your leverage in every type of agreement. Identify, assess your leverage. Identify and assess your risk tolerance. In other words, how comfortable are you in holding out or taking a certain position, knowing that you could end up not completing this deal? So if you submit a demand that's going to be high, when we would talk about all these things, then you may run the risk of losing a particular deal. But on the other side, you also, if you assess and evaluate and understand your leverage, you may be, many, many times this occurs, able to significantly increase the compensation. This is the same whether it's a gas lease, pipeline, especially pipeline agreements today, these buying and selling gas rights, but all types of agreements, compressor stations, surface sites, roadways. You got to do this, guys. You have to. Again, whether it's me or somebody else, you have to do it. You have to. You got to make that call. So I'm gonna finish up this segment. I'm gonna tell you a little story. I had a client who had an offer to buy oil and gas rights, and this offer was very, very high, and it was for many thousands of dollars per acre. I'm gonna give you a hypothetical. We'll go hypothetical here. Let's say it was $10,000 per acre to purchase gas rights. $10,000 hypothetically to purchase gas rights. So we say, okay, evaluate it. Prior client of mine says, hey, boy, this is a lot of money. Thinking about maybe doing this. Well, thankfully, they take the advice, give me a call, we talk about it, and explain all the different reasons and why you would be offered, let's say, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 per acre. Why would you be offered that much money? Well, in this case, we're able to identify and say, okay, here's why. And then evaluate the offer and say, is this something you want to proceed with? And if it is something you want to proceed with, then let's talk about the problems with the documents themselves. But maybe it's not something you want to do because you know that there's a lot of potential and you'd rather bet on what seems to be, in this particular case, virtually guaranteed substantial future royalties that we were able to identify. I stress again, every case is different. Every single case is different, and that's why everybody needs individual specific advice. Ultimately, though, this landowner decides, all right, I'm going to pass on this deal. Landowner tells the broker that I'm going to pass on this. Broker says, how come? Long story short, and I mean, I'm going to make this short and I could go for a while. The broker is going out of their minds. How can you, I can't believe this. This is such a great thing for you. How can you not do this? How can you not do this? How can you not do this? Well, it's the old, I believe it's Shakespeare, thou doth protest too much. Why are you so adamant? Why are you so aggressive? Why are you calling? Why are you showing up? Why are you doing what you're doing in order to sell this agreement to the landowner when, according to what you're saying, it's such a great agreement for the landowner and a terrible agreement for the purchaser of the gas rights? Think about that. If it's such a bad deal for you and the company going to buy the gas rights, if it's so bad and the landowner is so lucky and privileged and honored and hit the lottery to be given this offer, if that's the case, then you, broker, landsman, company representative, you should say to the landowner, whew, thank heavens. Oh, you did us such a great favor by declining that offer. Oh, we were going to take a bath on that. Well, no, because they're not going to take a bath on it because it's a great deal for them. And they're going to turn it and say, oh, it's such a great deal for you. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I mean, come on. No, it's a great deal for you. Let's call it what it is. And then from there, hypothetically, there's more money offered. There's more money offered. So guys, I'm going to leave it with this. If you are considering buying or selling oil and gas rights, don't sign anything. Talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, who's gone through this process, and not your neighbor, because your neighbor maybe made a huge mistake. Talk to somebody who's gone through the process, who understands the problems with the offer, with the documents, with future production activities. talk to somebody that knows. And hey, look, I would recommend you give me a call, but call somebody. You can call me 570-307-0702. I start these all the time. We do a consultation. Generally, it's 1 hour, but 2 hours at the max. You will be informed, and you will make the right decision for you and your particular circumstance. You're listening to Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. You can join me right here on this station every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And if you miss any of today's show, you want to go back, listen to many hours of shows, been doing the show since 2010, check out pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com, and now stay tuned for this extremely important message. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. You can join me every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. on this station. And if you miss any of today's show, you missed any of the last couple years worth of shows, again, doing the show since August of 2010, you can go to pagasleaseattorney.com or pipelineattorney.com for outstanding landowner information, whether you're looking for representation or high-quality information. Go check out pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com, and you can go listen to today's show. Will be up tomorrow, Monday morning, as are many, many hours of shows available for your listening pleasure. And, before I jump into this segment here, I want to remind everybody, too, or announce, I don't know. I'm starting to do this newsletter, and I'm telling you we're getting outstanding feedback. My goal is to do at least one a month, or try to do one a month. I shouldn't say at least. Sometimes maybe a couple, but my goal is minimum once a month. They're not to bother anybody. They're free. It's information where I write on a hot topic. If you're interested in getting this typically monthly newsletter, we don't solicit you. I'm not going to be reaching out to you. We're not going to be soliciting you. But you can sign up for the newsletter. Call the office, 570-307-0702. I think we have 600 plus people that we send it out to. Free, believe me, we're not calling you, we're not writing you, we're getting out good quality information. You can read it, don't read it, throw it away, you can unsubscribe, whatever the case may be. But I'm telling you, I spend a lot of time, I think about it, and I want to get quality information to you, the landowner. So if you're interested in getting the newsletter, I think you can sign up on the website at pagasleaseattorney.com or pipelineattorney.com. You can write a message, hey, I want to sign up for this newsletter, or I believe you can even just sign up on the websites. Or you can call 570-307-0702, 570-307-0702. 0702. You can speak with Marcia. She'll take your information. We'll add you to the list, and we'll get that out to you. And if you don't like it, you just hit unsubscribe, and you can stop. But so far, we've been receiving outstanding feedback, so we'd like to get as much information as we can to you, the Pennsylvania landowner. All right, let's get back to the show and to the material here. All right, I come into these shows and I have these ideas, and I always kind of get bogged down on certain subjects. I could do 4 shows on buying and selling gas rights right now. I could sit here right now and do 4 straight shows talking about all of the different issues related to buying and selling oil and gas rights. I'm not going to go into that here now. There's many other shows like that up on the website, pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. I'll be doing more shows in the future, but again, I just want to summarize. If you are considering selling your oil and natural gas rights, put your pen down. You can call. We do an hour to 2 hour consultation, review, explain the issues, do an evaluation, give you some recommendations. If you want to move forward, great. You don't, that's great too. But you should not be entering into these transactions without consulting with somebody who understands, who's been involved in it, knows what the pitfalls, problems, and loopholes are, and then you'll make an informed decision. If you are just signing the documents presented by the broker, the company, the landman, whatever we want to call the person who's giving you this offer, in my opinion, in my strongest of strong opinions, you're making a terrible, terrible mistake. Let's not do that. Let's not do it. Whether you call me, call somebody else, please call someone. How do you rely on the person who is trying to purchase your rights at the lowest possible price to educate, inform you, and tell you what you need to know? In my opinion, you can't. You can listen, you can learn, and then you go and you have your own person look at this and evaluate it. So please, please do not enter into these transactions without consulting and retaining, if you're going to do the transaction, a knowledgeable oil and gas attorney. You're leaving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cases on the table, and you're entering into terrible contracts for the sale. Bad sales agreements, bad deeds. You got to do this the right way if you're going to do it. And I've never seen a sales agreement for these types of transactions, which is the document that sets the terms of the sale. That's the sales agreement. I've never seen one yet that didn't need to be changed, and in most cases changed substantially. But more importantly, sometimes you may only make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 changes, but they're critical changes. Critical. It's back to that quality, quantity. Maybe there's 25 changes that need to be made. 10 of them are critical, 15 are desirable. But you got to get these documents right. If I were going to draft the documents for my client and give them to the company, I would make them extremely client landowner friendly, and the company would change them. Well, that's what they do as well. The document that you're handed is drafted by attorneys who carefully draft these documents in the favor of the company or the purchaser, not the seller, not you. They're not your attorney. They're not working for you. They're writing contracts and documents that are going to benefit their side. You need to negotiate these sales. But before you even get there, you need to know, do I want to even do this sale? Why am I being offered this money? What is the potential in the future? What should I be considering? You need to be looking at all those things. I'm going to leave it with this, because I went so much further down this path than I thought I was going to, but I just am seeing it too much. I'm seeing it too much. Stop, guys. Stop signing these documents. Get at least the consultation and review, but do not simply sign offers to sell your oil and gas rights without consulting, at least consulting with a knowledgeable attorney that's going to work and assist you. Sorry, you can call us 570-307-0702 anywhere in the state. I say this because we got to stop signing bad agreements. We have to stop it. And we need to make sure that we're not leaving tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. We have to do better. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. So I'm going to tell you, one of the things that I plan on spending a lot of time today discussing is this. Recently, clients sent me letters that Cabot had sent to them seeking to modify or reform their production unit. I'm going to get into that in a second. But one thing I want to touch on again briefly, I've been holding back. I haven't done pipeline shows in a while. And I can tell you, pipelines to me are one of the most exciting areas. It sounds maybe crazy, but pipelines are a big deal. Pipelines, in many, many cases, landowners have extremely powerful negotiation leverage. In many cases, not all, but in many cases. And I have seen pipeline agreements go from $20,000 offers to over $200,000. Many times. I've seen 50 turn into 300. We could go on and on and on. But you have to understand your leverage, and you can't just sign a pipeline offer. Time and time again, I'm seeing people who come in for other representation. They bring their pipeline agreements, or they send me. Most people are sending me their documents. They send them to me and look and say, "Oh my heavens, I can't believe you signed this pipeline right-of-way agreement. We could have done so much better, like in terms and language. But how much money did you get?" And then I hear that, and then I just really start putting my hands in my head and say, "Oh my heavens," or hands on my head. Say, "Geez, we could have done so much better. So please, in the future, if you get an offer, send it to me, call. Let's at least do a review and consultation. I've been saying this so much more over the last 6 months because I think it is really, this whole thing evolves. I think it's an outstanding opportunity to say, okay, let's have a small investment of time and money before we make a major decision. So you're not signing on to this lengthy representation unless later you want further services, but to at least understand what is your leverage. Can I say no to this pipeline agreement offer? Can I negotiate it? How can I negotiate it? What might I be able to obtain? What are other people getting in the area? What has this company paid for in the past? What have they agreed to in the past? And if you're not doing that, again, major mistake. Landowners, I see it all the time. And I've negotiated agreements that have increased, pipeline agreements, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars from the original offer. Doesn't happen every time, but it's happened quite a bit. And can you rely on the landman who works for the pipeline company? Can you rely on them to give you or negotiate for you? It's laughable. The best possible agreement for you, the landowner? Can you rely on that? Well, no. Why? Because the landman works for the company, not you, the landowner. I don't know if you remember, I think it was last week, I had this addendum sheet where the client actually signed. They weren't my client at the time, believe me. But later on, they send me their lease that they signed, and in the addendum, the one term says in brackets. So there's an addendum term, and then beneath it in brackets is a note from apparently the gas company to the landmen saying, don't offer this term, or you can't offer this unless the landowner asks specifically. So in that case, the obvious situation is the company said, okay, here's what you're allowed to give. And maybe here's what you're allowed to give, but only if the landowner asks. So if the landowner doesn't ask, your job is not to give it to them. So you better darn well know what to ask for. And you know what? Unfortunately, most people don't. So we need to educate, take advantage of opportunities, enter into the best possible agreements. And just sticking with this pipelines for another second, I'll give you a neat little example here. So, okay, within the last week, I think, maybe the last two, we'll say, EOG up in Bradford County has presented, I'm aware of, landowners with a pipeline right-of-way agreement. And my client tells me, and I assume this is true, longtime client gets this offer, sends it to me, says, hey, Doug, what do you think? Let's talk about this. I look at it, and also the client says, yeah, the landman told me that they're just starting to approach people now, today, or this time frame, and they're going to start construction. They want to have this line in at the beginning of 2017. So, certainly less than a year from the time that they approached the landowner. Well, that's pretty darn aggressive. That would be great, I guess, but it's pretty aggressive. Then I have another offer with another company who says, hey, we need to have a 3-year option agreement. So we need your client to sign now, and then we need to have 3 years of time to decide whether we're going to actually use this agreement. Company says we need 3 years because it's difficult to obtain permits. Because we get delays in permitting, we need to have 3 years so we can decide if we want to use it and then obtain our permits. So you got one landman, you got one guy out there who apparently, again, he didn't talk to me, but my client says, hey, look, we're out here today. We want to get everyone signed, and then we're going to put the line in the beginning of next year. And then you got another person saying, well, you can sign today, but we need to have 3 years to decide to use it and then to obtain permits, which can take us a very, very long time. So one of the things, look, do those two things jive? No, not really. So let's think about that. Well, are they both telling the truth? Are they both stating things accurately? I don't know. But I know this. There are two different things being said, and I'll tell you this, I don't think for a second that a company who's going out today to seek right-of-way agreements is going to be able to install a line when they're just going out today, that they're going to be able to install a line within a year. It's just not going to happen. Just not going to happen. But I'll tell you what it does do. It makes the landowners think, pipelines equal gas transportation, equal royalties. So guy says to me, oh yeah, we're going to have this line in at the beginning of this next year, 2017. Then, well, I better hurry up and sign because I want to get royalties. And here you go. You have no guarantee that it's going to be in 2017. You have no guarantee it's going to be in 2018, 19, or 20. It's just something that's being said to you. And the chances of it being in at the beginning of 2017, in my mind, are virtually zero. Virtually zero. So those are the type of things we need to be looking at and talking about. And more importantly, this landowner had the complete and total ability to say no to this pipeline agreement or negotiate. So we talk about it. We say, hey, look, here's all the different reasons. How do you want to handle it? So again, I don't care whatever that document is, whether it's a lease, a pipeline agreement, an interstate pipeline agreement, a compressor site, a buy or sell, property, gas rights, get at least a review and consultation, 570-307-0702, or try not to make it too commercial. Call someone else, but get this information. Don't sign documents. Stop signing. Stop simply signing. In the down gas price market, there are many opportunities for landowners. Seize opportunities. Stop signing without quality information from you, the landowner's perspective. You're listening to Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. I'm going to be right back with you after this important break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm right here with you on this station every Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. And I'm going to take this opportunity. I know we have listeners, we broadcast in northeastern Pennsylvania, north central Pennsylvania, and southwestern Pennsylvania. And I want to just give this notice to everybody. And I know it may be a far trip, and we're looking to do other ones too. I'm looking to try to get out to the Pittsburgh area. I'm from Armstrong County. So over this summer, I'm hoping to maybe parlay a visit to my parents, maybe even maybe in the fall to a Steeler game. That would be great. But anyway, I'm doing a free landowner only seminar. Now, a couple things. Here's the rules. Private seminar for landowners only. No offense, company guys, but it is a private event, and you have to be a landowner. You have to be pre-registered. It is free. There is no representation obligation. You're not getting a big sales pitch here. I'm going to bring you high-quality information on the hot topics facing area landowners. Now, this seminar is going to be on Wednesday, June 15th. Wednesday, June 15th from 6 to 8 p.m. It is going to be in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, which is in Tioga County, so north central Pennsylvania. Wednesday, June 15th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Dean Center, right downtown at the Dean Center in Wellsboro. This is going to be a private event. You must be pre-registered. I can't say that enough. If you're not on the list, if we do not have you as a verified landowner prior to that event on Wednesday, June 15th from 6 to 8, I'm sorry, but you won't be permitted entry. So you must pre-register. So you can pre-register online at pagasleaseattorney.com, fill out that information, or call the office, 570-307-0702. Write it down, 570-307-0702. I have to say it, the seating is limited, and we are getting a lot of calls. We're getting a lot of people pre-registered. At some point, if we hit our maximum, we will be stopping registration. So if you're interested, do not wait until the last moment, because unfortunately, again, we want to do this. We want to create an environment where we're getting great information to a core group of landowners who are interested. So, and I'll be taking questions and answers afterwards, but we need to have only landowners, and we need to have you pre-registered. It's a private event. You have to be pre-registered. You can do it again, pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com, or better yet even, call the office just for registration, 570 307-0702. And if you do that, I'm telling you, sign up. If you talk to Marcia, say, hey, what about this newsletter? Can I get on that list? It's not something you're going to be bothered by. It's going to be good quality information. There's, again, free quality information. I'm writing articles, trying to get them out once a month to make sure we're getting out education, information. And if you don't like it, don't read it. If you say, boy, I don't like even receiving these, unsubscribe. But we want to get good quality information. Like I say, I think we have 600 plus people that we're sending out the information to, and people aren't saying, oh, God, stop it. We're getting a lot of great feedback like, hey, thanks for that information. So you can also register for or sign up for the newsletter whenever you register for the seminar. Okay, I'm going to have a relatively short segment here because I ran long the first two, but I want to touch on something. Someone came to my thoughts, talking about doing reviews and consultations. And, I apologize if this seems extra commercial, and I apologize if my apologies seem to grow tiring at times. But the idea of the show, I hope everyone's getting good quality information learning. The show should be taken as much as you can. If you have the internet, go check out pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. We have this, and then the newsletter. These are ways to educate and inform Pennsylvania landowners. Even if we never talk, you never retain us, you never hire me, whatever the case may be, this is access to what I think is good quality information. Remember, I represent landowners. That's all that I do. Oil and gas right owners, landowners. We're still, despite the down market as far as the prices go, we're very blessed and very, very busy. It's all I'm doing all the time. So I do think, and it's not to be, it's certainly not to be egotistical in any way. Please, I pray it doesn't come that way. But, we have this experience. I have this experience. I want to share what I can. And whether you talk to me or talk to somebody else, we want to make sure at least you're clued in on the issues, that we have you focus and say, hey, wait, you know what? Oh, I thought this was pretty simple, but now looking at it, I realize, maybe this isn't as simple as what I thought it was. Maybe I need to get some assistance. You'll hear me say, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. My dad worked in the mill. He farmed on our family farm. My grandfather before him worked in the mill, farmed the farm. His grandfather his father farmed the farm. So, I guess I'm the first guy not farming the farm for a while. But my point is that these properties, and I talked earlier about the oil and gas rights and the properties, these are family generational properties in many, many cases. Not always, but in many cases. And in many cases, they're the most valuable asset that the family owns. That you say, okay, what do I have that's worth the most money is your property. So you're going to have emotional, personal value of this property. I think about, all the different names, where we played in the bridge and we used to hang out at down at the corner. We go down to the bottom or up on the hill, and everybody has these names for the pieces of the property. It's where you grew up. It's where your parents grew up. It's where your children are growing up in many cases. So that's an extremely valuable thing to most people, as it should be in my mind. But then also, there's a secondary part now as this oil and gas production and the findings of these deeper formations and advanced techniques to extract this gas. Well, now, in addition to this extremely valuable property emotionally and sentimentally and to your family, now there's also this added financial value to this property. And in some cases, it's enormous in a lot of cases. So what do we want to do? Well, most people, most of my clients, most landowners, there's two parts to this, two broad parts. One is, hey, this is your property. Maybe you're farming it. Maybe you hunt it. Maybe this is, where you grew up. I think about our property and I think about, oh my heavens, if there was a well pad in certain areas of my property, these 20 to 25 acre pads, and don't let guys fool you. I just had 2 pads within the last week and a half, over 20 acres with clients. 2 pads that I'm working on, the last 2 were both over 20 acres with the pad in the roadway. So don't buy into this, it'll be a 5-acre pad. That's not what we see. 20 plus is big, but it's not that uncommon. Not that uncommon. So you need to understand that. Real quick, if the landowner says, oh, no, we don't make pads, or landman says, no, we don't make pads like that, well, then say, okay, how about we put in the lease that the pad can't be greater than 15 acres. That's pretty darn big. Let's put that in. Well, we can't put that in there. So, all of those things. Like anytime somebody says to you, we won't do that or we can't do that, say, fine. Then that's great. I like that. Let's put that in writing. You get it in writing, that's great. If you don't get it in writing, know and understand, well, it may not occur how you think or how you were told that it would occur. And I have some personal experience. We have property through my wife's family also in Wayne County, Pennsylvania. And overall combined, it's close to about 500 acres combined. And in part we own with my wife's uncle and family. But, I sat in these meetings. I personally sat there and was spoken to and talked to landmen who said, oh, yeah, the pads are going to be about 5 acres and we're going to reclaim them. As soon as we're done drilling, it'll be like a golf course. And I heard all these things. This isn't me hearing it from somebody else. This is me hearing it with my own 2 ears. And now I see routinely. And it flashes to my head every time I see these pads at 20 plus acres. When I was told, oh, yeah, if we drill on your property, it would be about a 3 to 5 acre pad site. 3 to 5 acre pad site that'll be reclaimed and it'll look like a golf course. And I just always think back to these, and I set for presentation for our property and some neighboring properties in a very small venue and spoke with the landmen afterwards. And I'm going to tell you what was said to me then and what I see happening. It's not what we see. It's just not what we see. Who knows? Maybe they thought that's what it was going to happen, but I'll tell you what. Nobody said anything about a 20-acre well pad, 25-acre well pad, and certainly if they did, I know a lot of people who wouldn't have signed because they wouldn't want to have a 20-acre well pad on their property. So again, it gets back to, and I kind of got off track a bit, but it gets back to, if you have an offer, you got to get independent information by somebody with knowledge who can assist you. You need to do it. Whether it's me or somebody else, get that information. Don't rely on the company landman. Why? Because the landman works for the company, not you, the landowner. Okay, so I was going to say one thing real quick, and I got all sidetracked on this other point. But I just wanted to, one thing about what I do, and again, sorry in the commercial aspect, but I just want people to know, I've read recently these leases again, and every once in a while they pop up, and you should see again, I had my hands on my face. I'm like, oh gosh. Landowners signing leases where they're paying their attorney or consultant a percentage of future royalties. Don't do that. Don't do that. In my opinion, don't do that. If your attorney or your consultant is looking to take percentages from future royalties, future payments, please be careful. Please be careful. I've never taken a percentage. I have no intention of ever taking a percentage. It's you. It's your property. It's your family's property, not my property, not mine at all. So most of the work I do is hourly. I talk about those review and consultations. They're set at an hourly fee. We get those done. If you want to do more, great. If you don't, no problem. But you're going to come out of that with a lot more information and a small investment relative to what you're doing and the valuable asset that you're dealing with. Your property, your family's property, the physical, emotional aspect of that property, and then the financial aspect of the property. You got to do it right. You have to do it right. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m., and I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. You know, as often is the case, I get sidetracked on a subject, but the good news is they're important subjects. So they end up taking a little more time than I thought. I planned on today, so I guess this is my little bit of a teaser for next week. But again, don't tune out next week because you say, well, this doesn't apply to me. These principles the ideas of things that you need to be looking out for, they apply across the much broader spectrum than any single individual offer or agreement. Meaning that if I'm talking about gas lease offers, if I'm talking about lease extensions and modifications, if I'm talking about pipelines or compressor stations, all of these things, even though you may not have a pipeline agreement that you're presented with, well, these are going to be important concepts in the event that you are presented with an agreement in the future. They're also going to be important concepts because many of them overlap. The whole idea of assessing leverage, understanding what to ask for, that applies no matter what type of an agreement there is. The idea of how companies operate, techniques that are used in effort to induce you to sign or convince you to sign or to have you sign agreements. Those cross all spectrums, whether it's a pipeline, whether it's buy or sell gas rights, whether it's a surface site, whether it's a well site even, or a gas lease, all of these things. So don't ever think, well, that doesn't apply to me because I already have signed a gas lease, so I don't need to know about gas lease offers. Well, there's overlap. And virtually everything that we talk about isn't solely limited to that one particular topic. So if we're talking about gas leases and you're considering a pipeline agreement or you have a pipeline agreement offer, well, I'm going to tell you, guarantee there's going to be information that's going to be useful for you. I've talked a lot about gas lease amendments, modifications, and extensions. Very hot topics. Just want to remind everybody again, there are opportunities in down gas price markets. There are opportunities that are arising all the time, which may seem counterintuitive. You say, gas prices are down. How's that going to be good for me? Gas prices are down. Companies have stopped or reduced drilling. Bad agreements for landowners will expire under these circumstances. Not all, but many. And what happens is the companies come back out and they want to extend, modify, or amend your lease or your pipeline agreement or other agreements to buy more time. This is a golden opportunity in many cases to either say thank you but no thank you, to try to renegotiate, to try to make your agreement better. I'm seeing some of these things. We've been able to cancel out in one case just recently a terrible pipeline right-of-way agreement that the landowner signed in 2008. The landowner would maybe be inclined to just go ahead and sign this new agreement that they're presented with, which would be, in this case, a big mistake. So what we did is, hey, wait a second, let's take a step back. Let's assess our leverage. Let's understand what you have and what you're being asked to do. And then let's decide how do you want to handle it. And this is a very short story I'm going to tell of representation. But in this case, ultimately, the landowner had an agreement that they decided that they wanted to move forward with. And in this case, as part of entering into this new agreement, we were able to terminate a 2008 pipeline right-of-way agreement that was a terrible landowner agreement that was very bad for the landowner, that would have lasted forever. But we were able to eliminate that as part of this new arrangement or new contract with this company. That can have a tremendous value for the landowner because the original agreement was terrible. It paid very little compensation and allowed a pipeline in that case to be put anywhere, multiple pipelines on the property. By eliminating that agreement, the landowner now has the ability in the future to potentially decline any pipeline agreement offer or negotiate a new agreement. So, and also identify where any pipelines are going to be located, how many, when, all of those different items, and many, many, many more in a future negotiation. And more money, or simply saying no. So something like that could turn out to be, and this was a larger property, that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future. Or it could be the difference of having a pipeline somewhere that you absolutely didn't want to have a pipeline, or not having any pipeline at all. So that's just another, there are so many times where there are smaller items that may not be, and this is a big item, but an issue behind the scenes. What can we do to make this overall picture better for you? So we need to be looking at everything. And certainly, once again, the landman in this case didn't say, oh, by the way, you have this really bad, for you, it's really bad pipeline agreement that's out there from 2008. I'll bet you if we reach an agreement ultimately with your lease and what we want to do here, we can probably terminate that and get rid of it so that won't come back to haunt you or your children and future generations. That wasn't something that was discussed. So what may be a benefit for you may not always just be on the surface. All right. Now, I want to say, so next week, I'm going to tell you, so let me finally get to it here. So I was going to do it this week, and I apologize because, I planned on talking about it. But I'm going to talk about a correspondence that Cabot had sent out to Susquehanna County landowners saying that they want to amend or conform units. Here's the thing again, and then saying, hey, here, sign this and return it back. Number one, wait till next week, and don't even sign it then. But these type of things, you need to get personal advice. The company sends you something and says, oh, hey, here, sign this and return it. Be careful. Please be careful. I'm going to talk about this Cabot correspondence and things that people need to look out for because in some cases it may be what you want to do, but in many, many cases you don't want to do it. So what do we need to do? We need to know, well, where do you fit in? Where do you fit in? So, okay, we're going to talk about that in detail next week, but I want to close out. I want to remind everybody again, very excited about this. We're already, I think we're close to 30+%, right around 30, a little over 30% capacity already for our seminar. It's coming up. Again, it is a free landowner-only seminar. It's a private event sponsored by the Clark Law Firm. I'll be doing a presentation and I'll be answering questions then afterwards. It's in Tioga County. It's going to be at Wellsboro. It is on Wednesday, June 15th, 2016. It's a free private seminar, Wednesday, June 15th, 2016, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Dean Center, downtown in Wellsboro, Tioga County, Pennsylvania. Now, I say it is free, but you must pre-register. You can pre-register by going online to pagasleaseattorney.com. You can pre-register by calling 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. I'm sorry, but if you're not pre-registered, I can't say it enough. If you're not pre-registered, you cannot attend. But if you pre-registered and you're a landowner, and we will verify that you're a Pennsylvania landowner, you can attend if you pre-register. If you're not on the list and pre-registered, you cannot enter the night of the seminar. We want it to be landowner and landowners only, and we want to make sure that we're going to have a really valuable session here for you, the landowner. So again, open to all landowners who pre-register until we hit our maximum, and then we're stopping registration. The seminar is Wednesday, June 15th, 2016, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Dean Center in Wellsboro, Tioga County. You must pre-register online, pagasleaseattorney.com, or call the office, 570-307-0702. Free. There's no obligation. This isn't a big sales thing. You're not going to get a sales pitch. What you're going to get is outstanding landowner information, highly relevant to Tioga County and the surrounding areas. You've been listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, everybody, stop signing, and have a great week.